Honorable Senators and Members of Parliament, thank you for the opportunity to come before you today. The BC Civil Liberties Association is the organization responsible for sponsoring and litigating the landmark Carter case. We fought that case on behalf of all Canadians who need a choice at the end of life. Year after year, in poll after poll, Canadians have overwhelmingly indicated that they support death with dignity. And they expect to have the constitutional right that was declared by the Supreme Court of Canada in our case honored by all levels of government. You have already heard a great deal of testimony concerning the divided jurisdictional nature of physician-assisted dying in Canada. The provinces and the territories, as you know, have primary constitutional authority over matters of public and individual health. Nonetheless, Parliament does have the power to legislate with respect to federal matters that touch on health, notably through the use of the federal criminal law power. However, Parliament's power to legislate in this area is not unrestricted. The Court did not propose nor mandate the creation of a complex federal regulatory scheme to regulate physician-assisted dying. Such a law could be subject to constitutional challenge on the grounds that Parliament has exceeded its jurisdiction. More importantly, as a matter of principle, we think that it is profoundly problematic to regulate the delivery of a medical treatment through the prohibitions and penal sanctions of the Criminal Code. Physician-assisted dying is one of many available, compassionate, end-of-life healthcare options that should be available for critically ill individuals. Physician-assisted dying should be regulated in the same manner as comparable end-of-life medical decision-making, such as palliative sedation. Every day, in hospitals around the country, patients make decisions to be taken off a mechanical ventilator, to refuse kidney dialysis, and those life-ending decisions are not regulated by the criminal law. That being said, there are certain important matters that fall squarely within Parliament's jurisdiction. Parliament should amend the criminal law to mirror the scope of the Supreme Court of Canada's constitutional declaration, leaving further regulation to provincial legislative authority and the medical colleges. The Court provided explicit guidance to Parliament as to how to remedy the constitutional violation. The Court declared that the law is invalid insofar as it applies to a certain category of individuals. That is, it's invalid as it applies to consenting adults who have a grievous and irremediable medical condition that causes enduring intolerable suffering. The Criminal Code should be amended to spell out the qualifications that would substantively entitle an individual to physician-assisted dying. In our view, there is no need to define terms beyond what is already set out in the Carter decision and understood in the criminal and the common law. Grievous is a term that is already employed in the criminal law, and courts have held it to mean serious and non-trivial. Irremediable, as defined by the Court, is a condition that cannot be alleviated by any means acceptable to the patient. Intolerable suffering is suffering that is intolerable to the individual concerned in the circumstances of his or her condition. Grievous and irremediable should not be defined in terms of specific health conditions. It would be impossible to list the full range of illnesses, diseases, and disabilities that would meet the criteria established by the Supreme Court. Mental illness should not be excluded as a qualifying condition. Many people who are mentally ill are capable for the purposes of making end-of-life decisions. Grievous and irremediable should not be defined as terminal illness. The term is too vague, and it's indeterminate and arbitrary. Furthermore, there is no precise science to providing a prognosis of terminal illness in terms of specific length of time. The Carter decision applies to a competent adult person. In other cases, the Supreme Court of Canada has cautioned against using arbitrary age limits that bear no relationship to an individual's competence to make a medical decision. We urge Parliament to affirm the principle that physician-assisted dying should rest on competence and not on age. And now my colleague, Josh Patterson, will provide further remarks.